smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to hour number 3 live right here on the early line on this Thursday. Maybe better yet, hello friends, as the Masters is about to begin in 2024 at Augusta National Golf Club. Some rain early this morning in the overnight hours, but not as much as expected. That storm has pushed through. We're ready to get underway at Augusta National Golf Club. 10 minutes away from the ceremonial tee shots led by the Golden Bear. Jack Nicklaus, the Black Knight, Gary Player. And Tom Watson doesn't really have a cool nickname, but also Tom Watson.
Cool
First group out at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time in this opening round of the Masters in 2024. We'll give you some bets. We'll update the live leaderboard. We go around the diamond in MLB, and the fourth to last night of this NBA regular season. Just 4 more days left, DRS.
Yep, and pretty soon we'll find out what's going on in Augusta. Can't wait for this 4-day run here all across the board. We'll have some fun with that too. But yeah, we're about to get underway. It's actually nice, Ben, that we actually had the delay so we can sort of let that anticipation build up here. Still plenty of times to get in those bets and have some fun with this. But we're going to have a condensed version. You're going to have golf all the way through today because those guys are hoping that round goes faster than slower. So most of these guys can finish today.
And it's going to be gusty at Augusta. 15 to 20 mile per hour winds over the span of the next 2 days on Thursday and Friday before the weekend. But then the weekend, sun-splashed and gorgeous. The azaleas in full bloom in pink. Augusta is going to look like the dream that it often can be. We welcome in our SportsGrid radio audience here. Hour number 3, live on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie. I am Ben. You're listening on Sirius XM, channel 159. All of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the fold as well. Channel 159 is the home for SportsGrid radio on Sirius XM. But if you want Masters coverage, the only place on the radio is Sirius XM channel 92. That is Masters Radio. Live play-by-play of the 2024 Masters from Augusta National Golf Club. Always remember one thing. Say amen at the corner. That is something you must do when it comes to the Masters. DRS, though, we start with action in the association. Huge game last night. Marquee matchup in the Mile High City between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. Both teams entered 55-24 in their overall record this year. The Nuggets, though, booked as a 6.5-point home favorite. They take care of business on their home floor, and more than likely will have home court advantage at altitude throughout the entirety of the NBA playoffs in the Western Conference. So we ask the public, does the West once again run through Denver? And nearly 60% of the public saying yes, that is the case at SportsGrid on Twitter. Will Denver win the Western Conference title for a second consecutive year? Nearly 60% saying yes.
Yeah, we're trying to prod the public here, but every time we throw out the NBA poll, it seems like they just scroll through without voting here. But the people that did stop by and vote in this at close to 60% and correctly here, the Denver Nuggets to win the Western Conference. Now, it would have been, I think it's actually, there's just about the same, 67 votes is what I'm totaling up right now. So we could have put is Aaron Rodgers, as my favorite quarterback there, is going to be the MVP next year of the NFL. We probably got like 350 votes on that when nobody's even talking about NFL at all. But they would vote on it. But come on, the Nuggets, and by the way, is it the Nuggets? Like if we put the Lakers, will the Lakers win the Western Conference? Would we have had more votes? We probably would have here. I think people are just bored with the Nuggets, and I don't understand why, because getting back to that point last year, nobody really expected them to say, okay, they're going to have the number 1 seed, and but there's other talent out there. The Nuggets aren't ready for this action. They won it this last year, and I expect them to do the same thing. I don't know about winning the championship, but get through the Western Conference because they have home court advantage. I voted yes. I'm part of that 60% crew.
So I voted no just because I have a Phoenix Suns ticket, and I still want to hold out hope, even though I know it's going to end very poorly for me. I do believe Denver is the rightful favorite. They're $3 in front of everybody else in the Western Conference. Now, as you compare the two conference championship odds and the races for it, Boston has home floor advantage. They've already clinched. It's minus 175. Out in the West, not minus money, but Denver's getting close before the end of a regular season. Plus 130, second best price, the LA Clippers at plus 440. It's more competitive. I think it's more up in the air in the Western Conference, but Denver is in front by more than $3. DRS, I feel very invested in the final 4 days, the last 2 regular season games for pretty much every club around the association. There is so much to figure out. Seed lines, who is where, who plays who by the time we get to the postseason that starts next week with the play-in tournament, and the NBA playoffs start a week from Saturday as well. We need the public to buy in at this time, too. It's going to be an exciting month of April into March in the NBA.
No, you're right. But we're led to believe, and rightfully so, and the superstars dictate this, where the regular season does not matter. Key matchups, marquee matchups on national TV, superstars sitting out just to get their rest. They let us know, like, hey, don't worry. As long as we're one of the top 6 seeds here, we don't care where we're actually 1 through 6 here. Now, granted, they don't want to be in that play-in round because then the juices really quick can get squeezed and knock you out of the playoffs. But if we're being honest, this is maybe the most fun I've watched the NBA over the past 2 weeks than at any time in the regular season been over the past 5 years. The fact of the matter, once again, take away the Boston Celtics and everybody else is fighting seed lines in the Eastern and Western Conference. I love the way it played out. I'm enjoying this a lot. And we will look at the standings today, and by Sunday, be like, wow, this team really dropped. This team rose up. The Sixers actually got to the 5 seed, not even the 6 seed at this point. All that stuff is still on the table. So let's watch it play out through Sunday. It's very, very exciting.
And listen, just because of the win last night does not mean Denver clinched the number 1 seed in the Western Conference postseason. However, the Nuggets now finish their regular season on the road against the Spurs, not a very good team, and the Memphis Grizzlies, also not a very good team. So the ball is certainly in Denver's court. Nikola Jokic going to win his 3rd MVP award in the past 4 seasons. A 41-point dazzling performance last night to help Denver to that win. Also had 11 boards in the victory over the T-Wolves. Jamal Murray is healthy. This Denver team is primed. And you could also look at the NBA championship odds that are a fascinating study. All year long, DRS, we've had a group of 4. Not so much anymore. It's really a tier of 2. The Celtics plus 165. Less than $1.50 behind is the Nuggets at 3-1. Third shortest price is the Clippers, but it's double the price of the Nuggets and then some. So the odds makers already, before a single postseason game is played in the association, already kind of setting the stage for a Nuggets-Celtics showdown in Boston for an NBA Finals.
Yeah, and exactly. You're seeing that Nuggets move there because it looks like they are going to now get that number 1 seed. But also keep in mind, other price points are also going to change based on seed lines. A team that finishes in the 6th spot going to get better odds than a team that might finish in the 7th spot come this weekend. So a lot of things to look forward to. But Sunday, we'll know that picture for sure. We'll be ready for it.
It's one of the beauties of the end of a regular season. You have all teams playing on the same day to figure out those seed lines. It's like we see in the NFL at the end of the regular season as well. Daily Basis with Craig Mish up next.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. A big day across Major League Baseball following a big debut last night in Boston for Jackson Holliday and the Baltimore Orioles. Craig Mish was here yesterday. It is the daily basis. It is a daily thing around MLB to break down what we could expect from his debut. Now we recap what we saw in his first game of his Major League Baseball career. Craig Mish, the host of Newswire, starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live right here on the grid. And, of course, our Major League Baseball insider as well. Craig, we clapped it up at the start of the show. We do the same here. Congrats to the Miami Marlins on their second win of the season.
I'll tell you, I mean, right now you look at those odds to win the World Series, Ben, it's pretty tempting at this point. You know, I mean, there could be, Mike Trout could be headed there at the trade deadline.
Whoa.
I mean, you're talking about, potentially, and again, potentially, Madison Bumgarner coming out of retirement to pitch 7 innings at a World Series game for the Marlins. It could all things could happen, so I would not rule them out at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I think I said last night on social media that the Marlins are undefeated now on the road on Wednesdays. I mean, this is something very trendy topic right now.
Now we look for it next week. And if it doesn't hit next week, we'll do it the week after that. The Marlins 140-1 to win the World Series. Not the longest price. Not the longest price around the bigs. I will just There's 4 teams at 500-1 right now, including the Nationals and the Athletics, whatever. We'll focus on some good baseball. Yes, good baseball for the Marlins too. But elsewhere in the American League East, in Boston, inside Fenway Park, it was the debut for Jackson Holliday, called up by the O's and made his first start in Major League Baseball. Not a hit yesterday, Craig, but an RBI that was part of the resurgence for Baltimore. Down early, they come all the way back to knock off the Sox 7-5. What did you make of Jackson Holliday's Major League debut and the win for the O's yesterday in Fenway?
Yeah, really exciting, and exciting for the Holliday family. I've known Matt Holliday for a long time. He spent a lot of time in Jupiter, I believe, in their off seasons. And of course, he played with the Cardinals. So spring training, he spent a lot of time there. Gotten a chance to know him a little bit. Don't know his son, Jackson. He's got another son named Ethan, who's going to be the first overall pick in the draft in 2 years. So it's sort of incredible. There are people that are comparing this situation with Matt Holliday to LeVar Ball, where LeVar Ball put 2 players in the NBA. Holiday's going to put 2 players in Major League Baseball. So I think, to me, there was an interesting comment that was made on social media today by Jacob Turner. He's a former pitcher in the big leagues. I got to know him when he was on the Marlins and he was on the Tigers as well. And the reason why he said that Holiday is going to have almost initial success at the big leagues, maybe unlike some others, is that there's no shock and awe for this kid. This kid has been around the game. He's been in major league clubhouses. He's seen Albert Pujols, the best players in baseball, and he probably thinks, hey, like, this guy's just like me. I could do the same thing. So those odds for him to win the Rookie of the Year, certainly. I mean, we talked about it weeks ago when Langford was the favorite. Maybe Langford still is the favorite now. I think this is going to get switched up. And look, you're 10-1, there's value there. 7-1, some value there. There isn't a ton, let's be honest. I mean, he is close to the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year, but that would be my pick to win it. I would pick him.
Craig, as we look at the Baltimore Orioles, is this a changing in the guard in the philosophy from an ownership perspective? Because Holiday gets brought up as a 20-year-old, which is great. The best players always should play, and baseball's always had that, well, we don't want to pay him just yet. Let's keep him down. Because quite frankly, Adley Rutschman felt like he was going to collect Social Security before they actually wanted to bring him up here. Talk about the Orioles' future and where they're headed, at least payroll status and also an ownership group willing to actually put their best foot forward.
Yeah, Donnie, I don't know that that's necessarily the answer. They do have a new ownership group. Yes, that has to be acknowledged. But, Mike Elias, Donnie, he comes from the Astros tree where they had a ton of success winning a lot of World Series and doing it in a very specific way with a hugely high-level performance system going on in the minor leagues and pitching labs. So I do think that you're going to see more of the same. Now, again, an owner in baseball can tell the vice president, the general manager, he can do anything he wants. The owner is Jim Crane, and he could, in the Astros. So in the past, he could tell Jeff Luhnow, do whatever I'm going to do this, and this is my plan. I mean, Jeff Luhnow's gone. They've cycled through these managers. Remember, Click is gone. They brought in, Dusty Baker. I mean, crazy stuff goes on in Houston. I don't see that happening in Baltimore. I think that Mike Elias at this point has proven that he knows how to operate a major league team. He knows how to get them out of the doldrums and into the chair where they could potentially be successful. So, Donnie, I don't think things change at all. I still think they develop these kids at the minor league level. Some maybe don't come up as soon as we would want them to. But in the end, this is going to happen via trade, and I think via development and draft. The Orioles are very much on the right path to success. I don't see a ton changing there.
Yeah, the Orioles have been good so far this year, 7-4. Last year's young crew was the #1 overall seed in the American League postseason, hoping to take that experience into victories this time around. Long way away from that by the time we get to October. So we focus on a short 6-game slate around MLB today. Plenty of clubs off on this Thursday and some day baseball. That includes in Arlington, the reigning World Series champs, the Rangers, with a winning record to begin, 7-5 to their first 12 games. In the A's, Craig, maybe not as bad as we expected, 4-8, not in the bottom of the American League West. That's where the Astros are in last. So a matchup today in Arlington, Texas, a -180 home money line favorite. How do you preview the Texas tussle?
Very hard to see the A's winning this one for me this afternoon. Now, look, it is April, and as we said, I mean, the Marlins, last night were, plus 200. I mean, anything can happen in baseball in April, so let's not rule that out. But that being said, today, I know both pitchers are not pitching particularly well. J.P. Sears on the side of Oakland and John Gray on the side of Texas. And by the way, there isn't a ton of data that shows that the hitters have faced either of these pitchers all that much. Gray, of course, once upon a time pitching in the National League before moving over to Texas. But, to me, this is sort of the situation where if you look at Sears' starts, has struggled in the first 5 innings. Oakland falls behind. Whether or not they come back sort of becomes irrelevant. Maybe that would be more of the direction to go here with the Texas Rangers and not worry about the end result of the game. So, certainly never advising laying -170 in a first 5, but I don't see a ton of other options here because I think that Oakland could score on Gray as well. Brent Rooker in particular is the one player on the A's that's had a lot of success against Gray.
Houston and Kansas City today at 2:10 Eastern. Windy conditions out there at Kaufman. But if you take a look at these teams, and I tell you, one team is a game out of first place, one team is in last place. Yeah, of course, it's Kansas City that's in last place. Not the case here. Houston in last place. Brown's going to be on the mound versus Singer. But you do have a favorite here for the road team, the Houston Astros at a -142 number. Houston really struggling. Kansas City playing good baseball. What can we anticipate today, Craig?
Royals playing great baseball right now, not just good. This is the best baseball they've played in April in a long period of time. Brady Singer pitching his best baseball ever right now. But I know that's sort of the line. You're looking at it like, this is screwy. Why are they -140? I mean, Hunter Brown is pitching for Houston, guys. This is a good pitcher. He faced the Rangers. He faced the Yankees. The first two times out, he got obliterated. This is not the Royals are good. They're not those teams. So I think there's a bounce back coming from Houston today. I would look toward the under here. I think both pitchers have a chance to pitch particularly well. Royals, generally speaking, a park that usually goes under the total.
Yeah, 9 is that total. The under has the juice. The Royals have won 6 straight games. They dropped their opening 2. They've won 8 of the last 10. Craig, you convinced me to take KC over 73.5 wins. We're off to a great start right there. So I thank your knowledge and your expertise, and you will see more of that from Craig Mish starting in just about 40 minutes, 11 a.m. Eastern time, live right here on Newswire. Craig, thank you so much for your time. As always, we'll chat later this week.
World Series bound. Have a great weekend.
The Royals or the Marlins?
The Marlins.
That's the matchup.
World Series bound.
Come on now. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. National League, American League. We'll do some daily diamond dashing around MLB up next as well.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hoffman right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted, but here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, +120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at +260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place I promise you, then Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
From the daily bases to the Diamond Dash, only 6 games around Major League Baseball on this Thursday. Plenty of clubs have the day off. We've got 4 games during the day. We've got 2 starting after 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we break them all down live right here on the early line. And we start with one of those games that starts after 6:30 p.m. Eastern time in Donnie's neck of the woods at the bank in Philadelphia. It's a battle of the Commonwealth. The Pittsburgh Pirates and the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phils at home, a -146. Home money line favorite. Total is 9. But DRS, the Buccos enter with a better record. 9 wins atop the National League Central.
Yeah, you take a look at that line. It seems a little bit light when it's the Phillies at home taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. But you're right. The Pirates have been much better this season as they anticipated. The Philadelphia Phillies off to their usual start, around 500 before they kick it into gear later in the season. Good win by the Phillies yesterday in rainy conditions in St. Louis to take back-to-back road trip series and win them both 2-1, 2-1. So now they come home. But also, is this game going to actually be played today? If it is, I actually hope it is. The reason being, 60 degrees here, not bad temperatures, but a wind of 16 miles an hour sustained blowing out to left field. The only problem is the Philadelphia Phillies played yesterday in the rain and through the raindrops. They're going to have to do the same thing tonight in Philadelphia as rain is expected for most of the game. Jones will be on the mound here for the Pittsburgh Pirates. You take a look at him based on just this season's statistics, 48 batters he's faced. It hasn't been bad, but he does have a slightly elevated ISO power number here, Ben, to left-handed batters, which could be dangerous because those left-handed batters in the lineup for the Philadelphia Phillies at the top, Kyle Schwarber and also Bryce Harper, might have a chance to tee off here. If we're flipping it over to the opposite side and take a look at how the Pirates match up, Ranger Suarez has been very good here this season and also had a solid season last year. 41 batters he's faced. The ISO power number is a little bit elevated at 179 combined between lefty and righties. Keep in mind, Ranger Suarez is a left-handed pitcher. However, to lefties, who's only faced 10, they have a 333 ISO power number against him, which is usually an anomaly. Usually the higher number is going to come from the right-handed batters. But the one thing that we do love about the Pirates, Ben, on this early season against left-handed pitching, take a look at some of these weighted on base percentages. 374, 561, 494, 513, 422, 386. The Pirates have done well here against left-handed pitching. I would love to take an over if this game plays because everything's spelling up to 2 okay pitchers here, 2 lineups that can get after it, and the wind's blowing out at Citizens Bank Ballpark. That's the way I look here.
We'll see if the game is played. Some rain is expected, as DRS mentioned, in the Northeast later on this Thursday. One game that was originally scheduled in Detroit between the Tigers and the Twins, postponed due to inclement weather. It is rescheduled for Saturday. That was between the Tigers and the Twins. So again, only 6 games on this Major League Baseball slate. Next up, we go from Philadelphia to some day baseball in Cincinnati. It's the Reds and the Brewers. Milwaukee got out to a hot start yesterday. Christian Yelich, 2-run shot in the top of the first. They never looked back. They won 7-2. Today, they are a road moneyline favorite, -126. Total at 8.5. The Brew Crew over in 7 games this year. Cincinnati over in 9 games so far. 8.5 is the total. Might we see some offense in the Great American Small Park?
Yeah, one of those ballparks that you love to bet RBI props in and home run props in because you can hit a lot there. The wind is blowing in at 10 miles an hour, but I don't even know if we get this game in here. Heavy rain expected all throughout the game today, so we'll see when this one starts. But if we're looking from a Freddie Peralta perspective here, the starting pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, he's been good. 43 batters that he's faced, Ben. How about this? A combined ISO power number between lefty and righty batters out of 105, a weighted on base percentage of 206. That's absolutely fantastic here. The lineup that we like for the Reds, they've actually done very well against right-handed pitching, particularly the block in the middle of that order. Fraley, De La Cruz, Steer, and Martini, 361, 599, 382, and 416. They're weighted on base percentages respectively here. But if you look at that Milwaukee lineup, this is where it starts to get good here. And this is why it's a shame where we just talked about the Phillies game. I think there'll be a total if they play. Same thing here. Look at Nick Martinez on the mound. Very good season last year. That hasn't translated equally this year. 48 batters that he's faced, a weighted on base percentage combined between lefties and righties at a 359. Take a look at this lineup for the Milwaukee Brewers, because it's usually for us, we say, okay, it's Yelich and everybody else because they're usually not very good. But how about this? Against right-handed pitching this season, I'm going to read you the weighted on base percentages of the anticipated starting lineup today. Keep in mind, guys, 320 to 325 or higher is above the Major League Baseball average here. 349, 509, 358, 371, 369, 357, 318, 418, and 372. Maybe a team totals in order for the Milwaukee Brewers if they play this game today. I like that Brewers lineup.
So when you look right now around MLB, a short slate, a lot of teams off, and weather could impact a ton of games. At least the weather is not great in MLB, so we can get some good weather down in Georgia, both for the Braves and the Mets, and, of course, at Augusta. The rain has gone through. They are off or about to be off as of this moment. 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, the first tee balls are supposed to be hit by Eric Van Rooyen and Jake Knapp, who won earlier this year on the PGA Tour. The twosome gets us started at the 2024 Masters. 4, please. A tradition unlike any other. So we continue around Major League Baseball in Atlanta, staying in that state down in Georgia. The Braves and the Mets, some day baseball early on. This one first pitch scheduled in less than 2 hours, 12:22 p.m. Eastern time. The Braves, a hefty home favorite, minus 168 against the New York Mets, over under 9.5. What's the breakdown?
Yeah, on the other side of the state there for the Masters here, so something to keep an eye on. And also, as you were talking about, Ben, those conditions. Now, granted, Atlanta and Augusta are pretty far away. We're not worried about any rain, but those windy conditions that we're expecting at Augusta showing up in Atlanta as well. 16-mile-an-hour sustained winds here at 70-degree temperatures, but those winds not pointing out, Ben, pointing out to right field. No, they're actually coming in from right field, so that might have a little bit of a difference here. Winans will be the pitcher of record today, we anticipate, starting for the Atlanta Braves. If we're looking at last year, 140 batters that he's faced, struggled a little bit, particularly with left-handed batters. Faced 92 last year, Ben, a 238 ISO and a 421 weighted on base percentage. Now, he's going to get his first start this year as we line up and say, well, is that same struggle going to continue? So if you're looking for some Mets bats here from the left-hand side, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Brett Beatty, McNeil, and Stewart would be the guys that you're trying to eye up. Now, let's flip it over to an Atlanta Braves perspective on what we think they can do at the plate. If you take a look at last year, Jose Quintana, 367 batters that he faced. His ISO power number combined was a 112. That's really good. This year, it's a little bit elevated through 47 batters, up to a 175. But catch this. He's a left-handed pitcher. He's actually doing very well against right-handed batters. A 114 ISO and a weighted on-base percentage of 297. Only 6 batters faced from the left-hand side. ISO power number, 600. Weighted on base percentage, 762. So could it be the lefties in the lineup to do some damage? And you look right in the middle. Matt Olson is a left-handed batter. 308 ISO power number, 342 weighted on base percentage versus left-handed pitchers this season. So if there's a matchup that I like, which usually is not lefty on lefty, you want to avoid that. But it seems like Quintana has struggled with lefties, and Olson on this early season has really hit lefties well. That's a guy to keep an eye on today down in Atlanta.
We'll continue to roll it around to Boston, back in Fenway Park for the third consecutive day. It's the Orioles and the Red Sox. Again, weather could influence this start time, 7:11 p.m. Eastern time. But Grayson Rodriguez on the bump for Baltimore against the Red Sox, and they are booked as the road favorites, minus 122. The O's have won each of the first 2 games in Fenway this week, looking to make it a perfect 3 for 3.
Yeah, and by the way, weather conditions here, a little bit chilly in Boston, not any rain expected, so we should be okay in this one. If you're taking a look at Grayson Rodriguez, who we really liked last year, he dominated right-handed batters as a right-handed pitcher, but gave it up a little bit to left-handed batters, a 204 ISO power number, which again, that number is like 170 or less if you're a pitcher you want to see that at, so that was elevated, a 364 weighted on base percentage. This year, however, struggling a little bit more, Ben, with right-handed batters than he is the lefties here. To righties, through 32 batters he's faced, a 207 ISO ISO power number and a 335 weighted on base percentage. To lefties this year, how about this? A weighted on base percentage of only 228, so handling his business there. If we're focusing on the lineup on the opposite side, which would be for Baltimore, which it seems like everybody is hitting here. Now, let's catch this. Garrett Whitlock last year was an average pitcher. How about this? A 194 ISO power number combined between 346 batters that he faced. A 345 weighted on base percentage. But this year, it's been the complete opposite. Through 39 batters he's faced, Ben, how about this? An 029 ISO and a 259 weighted on base percentage. But something has to give here. It's not great heading conditions in Boston, but going up against Baltimore, that's a great lineup. Take a look at the first 8 batters in the lineup today as we focus on the Orioles against right-handed pitching in 2024. 375 ISO, 185, 300, 261, 304, 308, and 250. This line is absolutely doing damage here. Something has to give.
Yeah.
I would trust the bats for the Baltimore Orioles more than I do Garrett Whitlock.
The Royals off to a good start. The Astros not so much. Houston in last currently in the AL West at 4-9. Kansas City looking up at Cleveland, but an 8-4 start in the American League Central. The Stros a slight road favorite in Kauffman today against Brady Singer and KC, but the Royals have won 6 straight. Does the win streak, as the odds makers expect, ERS, come to a close?
Yeah, by the way, Singer was average last year overall, 177 ISO, 341 weighted on base percentage against 749 batters. This year, he's faced 47 batters. He's been really good, Ben. ISO of 140 and a weighted on base percentage of 205. Now let's go to the other side. Hunter Brown, who's a pretty good pitcher, but last year, again, a 194 ISO power number to 350 weighted on base percentage. That's not the signs of a future ace here. And this year, it's been even worse. 39 batters faced, a 212 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 449. Heavy winds expected today, sustained 20-mile-an-hour crosswinds here. But I actually would lean, how about this again, to those Kansas City Royals.
Plus 120 on KC.
Yeah.
8 wins I need out of the 74 to go over 73.5 for the preseason win total. Around the association, up next.
If you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals, saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hoffman right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted. But here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually get him at plus 260. You got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A shorter slate on this Thursday, also around the association. Tonight is the fourth to last day of the NBA regular season. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, regular season finale day on Sunday. Only 5 games, but most of them impactful for the postseason race, except for really one that we'll talk about later and maybe try to find some value. However, big game, though, tonight in Boston. The Celtics don't need to win any more games, but they do keep winning games. They've won 5 of their last 6. In fact, had a 5-game win streak snapped on the road in Milwaukee just the other night earlier this week. It was the game where Giannis hurt his calf, but still a big victory for the Bucks. Tonight, the Celtics at home as an underdog for only the 4th time this year, as a dog inside TD Garden for the first time all season. Boston getting 2.5 points against the New York Knicks. The Knicks, the road favorite. Total is 214.5. Huge game for New York, trying to create some distance in the 3 spot from everybody else. The Knicks did win earlier this week. They've won 2 straight games. Can they make it 3 in a row, even against the NBA's best team?
This feels like week 18 in the NFL, where one team's like, yeah, we already have everything wrapped up, and we don't even think we're going to play a lot of our starters tonight against a team that still has something to play for. You see that overnight line, which had the Boston Celtics as a favorite at -1, and that has now shifted over here to the New York Knicks, showing up as a 2.5-point favorite. Reason being, questionable status listed tonight on Tillman, Tatum, Holiday, Brown, Porzingis, and Horford. So if there's a chance that at least half of those players are out, which let's just say Tatum and Brown don't show up, you'd be a fool right now not to say you are going to take the New York Knicks. But also, you see the Boston Celtics lost their last game. Maybe they want to get that taste out of their mouth, but I don't think it matters all that much here. One team needs this, the other team doesn't. We know how good Boston is on their home court, but they're good because usually all starting 5 is out there kicking everybody's butt. If that starting 5 is basically not going to play today, the New York Knicks are more than capable of going into the Garden and beating backups here. I'll take that point spread move here. Give me the -2.5 on the Knicks, Ben.
Yeah, I'm a little bit spooked, just to be honest. I feel like the odds makers should have that even more baked in than they are. If it's confirmed that Tatum and Brown are out, where does that line get to? 5.5, 6, 6.5? You're trying to get on top of it before that move starts, but maybe it's not moving just enough quite yet. Yeah. Now, the Knicks are a fascinating team. They are a 2.5-point road favorite. Total tonight at 214 and a hook. The New York Knicks started the calendar year of 2024 going under in 31 of 35 games. That was about until the middle of March, about 2.5-3 weeks ago. Now New York has gone over in 10 of its past 12 games. But if we're going to get the B squad for Boston, does this game stay under? A very perplexing matchup in my mind in Boston at this moment. You look at the points props that are available. Only 5 in every member of the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson has been on an absolute tear as of late. His points prop, 30.5. No love for Tay-Tay? If you're back in New York, we don't want Dante DiVincenzo over 4.5 made threes, plus 130 in terms of a little plus money sprinkle on the over?
And by the way, that might be a good way to look, but anytime you hear anything about the Celtics, if you have a crystal ball out and you can predict a blowout or guys aren't going to play, who is usually the benefactor there for the Celtics? It's usually Peyton Pritchett coming off the bench like a 22-point night affair. I don't know if anything's listed yet for him because we don't know the starting lineups, but if anybody is out of the starting lineup and or the Celtics are getting beat down or beating somebody down, Pritchard is usually the best player in the NBA at junk time.
Really good look if there is a points prop listed for Peyton Pritchard by the time we get to tonight. I do like Tay-Tay's points prop, and not even just to keep up with the bid. He had 21 the other night for the Knicks and only made a couple of threes. Again, his 3 points prop is 4.5. Maybe he doesn't go over the number. It's not the expected side. It's plus 130 to the over. But let's say he finishes with 4. That's 12 points right there. His points prop for the game is 17.5. Tay-Tay is quickly becoming a fan favorite here on the show. The Sacramento Kings have been struggling as of late. They're in the 8th spot in the Western Conference. New Orleans in the 6th spot with a half-game lead over the Suns. Sacramento just a half game in front of LA, full game in front of Golden State to be in the 7-8 play-in tournament matchup and not the 9-8 game. Huge matchup tonight in Sacramento, in California's capital, and reflected in the odds. Minus 110 now for the Kings, minus 106 on the other side for the Pels. It's a virtual pick'em. Who wins tonight in California's capital?
Yeah, and also reflective of the playoff total here. Opened up overnight at a 219 price down to 216.5. Talk about the Kings at a 216.5. Usually you want to go right over, but also maybe a new streak starts tonight as well for Domantas Sabonis, who needs to get back in his double-double corner here and handle his business. I've been down this situation so many times with both of these teams. Like when I think they need to rise to the occasions, the Pelicans usually let me down, and the same thing with the Sacramento Kings. But this game is a home game for the Kings tonight. It's a slight number with showing a lot of respect here to the New Orleans Pelicans. But once again, I'm going to take the home team here with the Kings. I think they have a good effort with Fox and Sabonis here, enough to beat the Pelicans. It's a light price. I just need a win on my home court. I'll go that way.
Will the beam be lit tonight in Sacramento? By the way, for that total, 14 of the last 17 games for Sacramento have stayed under 216 in a hook. Is that number as of right now? Sacramento has dropped 4 of their last 7 games. The Pels have won 2 in a row, but did not cover against Portland in their most recent game, won by double digits. Game went under, but they were a 14-point favorite. I kind of lean on the under of 216.5 for what will be a playoff feel in a monumental game for both. The Phoenix Suns, very interested in this result. They have the tiebreaker, I believe, but the Pels just beat them, so maybe not anymore. They did earlier in the year. A huge game, though, tonight in Sacramento, as we only have 4 days left in this NBA regular season. Golden State will be in the play-in tournament, but where? In the 9-10 game, more than likely. But are they going to be playing at home against the Lakers? Could they leapfrog Sacramento, make their way past LA as well into the 7-8 spot? The Warriors need a win tonight, but it's not just about getting an outright victory. Golden State, 14-point favorite on the road in Portland. They expect to win. Can they cover as a 14-point road favorite?
That's pretty incredible here, right? Because, again, we know the Portland Trailblazers don't care about the remaining parts of the season. The Golden State Warriors do. You could have sold me on it was minus 14 in San Francisco tonight, but it's not. It's in Portland, and there's still 2 touchdown favorites here, which is pretty remarkable. The total, Ben, hasn't moved overnight. 222.5 opening at the FanDuel Sportsbook now sits at 222.5, so nothing changed there. I actually like the over a little bit here, but once again, you're faced with that point of emphasis. One team really needs this basketball game and is going to go full gas against a Portland Trailblazers team that doesn't care. 14 is a lot of points even late in the game with a veteran team like Golden State. So my attack point, I would be surprised if Golden State doesn't have this game wrapped up by the half. I don't mean up 30 points or 20, but they should be able to be covering the half line, which probably is less than 10 points at this point. I would look for Golden State to come out really strong and put this game away and not worried about if one team is playing starters in the fourth quarter or not. Give me Golden State in the first half here. I think they handled their business.
8.5-point spread in the first in favor of Golden State. Not a bad number compared to a 14-point spread for the game overall. Golden State over in 4 of its previous 6, including earlier this week against the Lakers when the Dubs hit 26 threes. They went 26 of 41. So some 3-point props tonight for the Dubs. Steph Curry was a perfect 6 of 6. 4.5, his number. 3.5 for Clay. He was 5 of 10. Draymond Green, his 3-point prop is a half. The over has the juice at minus 130. If Draymond makes one triple, boom, there you go. It's the cash ticket. He was 5 of 7 on Tuesday against the Lakers in Los Angeles. A game for Chicago where you just want to see the tide start to turn your way, a little bit of positive momentum. It will be the Bulls and the Hawks in the 9-10 matchup in the Eastern Conference play-in tournament, more than likely inside the United Center. Tonight, the Bulls on the road in Detroit. Not a huge game from a seed line position, even in the play-in tournament, but you're trying to just build at least some momentum into the play-in tournament at the end of the regular season. The Bulls a 9.5-point favorite tonight in the Motor City.
It's a tough one. Laundry list of guys that are injured. The Detroit Pistons obviously don't care about winning basketball games. Yes, the Bulls are more invested, but the Bulls, again, at home, minus 9.5 would have been one of those like, oh, maybe I'll take a flyer on that because the Pistons are on the road again, don't care. But the Bulls are on the road here, laying basically double digits. Now, the line is going up in the total, 217 up to 220. For myself, usually when you get a team like the Pistons, who aren't really playing for much, it's more of a wide open, let's get our shots up. We're not going to really play great defense here. I agree with that line move from 217 to 220. I'm going to go over the total in this basketball game because I do think the Pistons will score and the Bulls will win. But at that point, I don't want to take the Bulls to win and must win by 10 points on the road. I think they do win, but
for sure,
I'll take the total to the over here.
Yeah, Chicago has not covered in its last 4 games as a favorite. In fact, they have lost outright in their last 3, booked as the favored side. Detroit, it has not been a great year by any means, and Monty Williams is first in the Motor City. But the Pistons have gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. We'll take a look at Nikola Vucevic and his rebounding prop. It's 11.5. The over has the hefty juice at minus 138. Not a lot in that game that I love. Here's the 5th game of the NBA slate tonight that really has no impact. Both teams have been eliminated from postseason contention. The Rockets, 10.5-point favorite on the road against the Jazz, over under 228. Utah has been really bad as of late. Of course, the Rockets won 11 in a row. Maybe we're going to give us a charge to the Golden State Warriors for that 10th and final spot. They did win earlier this week in a game they were not expected to. The Jazz have lost 13 in a row. So, I don't know. What do you think?
I'll tell you the crazy thing about this, too, is usually you're thinking about great basketball teams on the road get the ability to be favored by 10 points or more. Look at the teams tonight. Like the Bulls are at 9.5. Certainly not a great basketball team. You take a look at the Houston Rockets at 10.5. Certainly not a great basketball team. Say what you want about the Golden State Warriors, but they're looking to line up as the 10th seed in their respective conference, favored by 14 points. But the one thing we do know, it's almost like when we take a look at the Toronto Raptors at this point. Sometimes you just got to take a team that's fading and doesn't care anymore. That's the Utah Jazz. I'll take the Houston Rockets at 10.5 on the road. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll buy that line.
I'm going to take the over. The Jazz have gone over in 4 of their last 5. Houston over in 6 straight. And as I do the quick math here, 12 of their last 14 as well. The Rockets are at least playing good basketball, and Utah really can't slow anybody down. I would look at the over of this game at 228. Again, that is the largest total of the night. Everybody else at 222 and a hook or less, because at least the 4 other games have a team that will be in the play-in tournament, even if it doesn't matter much for their seed line or position in play-in tournament play. And keep an eye on those totals here in the final week of this regular season. They are going to start to dip down as we near the playoffs. We're not seeing that, though, tonight in Salt Lake. 228 is that total. We'll give you a best bet on the other side of the break here as we round out our 3 hours on the early line at SportsGrid. Quickly, though, a check of what is already happening at Augusta National Golf Club in Augusta, Georgia. First group is off. Everybody is even through their opening hole. DRS, did you put in any bets?
I like that.
Any bets for Augusta in the last hour?
That's good for Tiger, finishing at par through 3 holes. I like to see it. Evens.
A best bet may be coming your way from the Masters up next.
Boy, if you passed him up as a Heisman Trophy winner and he lights the league on fire like C.J. Stroud over a Bryce Young, you might not make it as a head coach or in your regime here. I just don't think they can pass over Daniels at number 2.
He's sitting at 5.8 goals saved above average. He has been standing on top of his head for this team, but defense has to help him out a little bit. The Red Wings defense comes alive just a bit. I think that they're definitely going to punch their card.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Victor Hovland right now can probably hit it right where he's looking on the range. But the problem is when you get out to a golf course, especially like Augusta National, it's a big, big picture. You can see every shot in the world, but the targets are really, really small.
I feel like whoever we pick is going to win. Like, I feel like we have the power to choose the winner of this tournament.
I know. I'm surprised more guys haven't reached out.
And they might, and they probably will.
Only on SportsGrid.
89-87, 0.6 seconds remaining. Big drama here in this game. Always frustrating when your Final Four parlay and bracket gets busted. But here we go. I'm done.
Look what he is now. He's on FanDuel, plus 120. Almost even money to win the tournament. So you actually, if you did get him at plus 260, you got a pretty good, better investment than you had before. Just saying.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QB zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Rounding out our 3 hours together live right here on this Thursday on the Early Line on SportsGrid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside. The Masters now underway, but some big college basketball news before we go. Scott Drew is remaining in Waco. He is staying as Baylor's head coach. He is not going to take the Kentucky job. That's a little bit tough for me at the moment, who got a little bit up in arms when my co-host Donnie Rightside and our guest Mark Zinno tried to claim Kentucky was not a top 10 job in the sport. It still certainly is, and it is top 5, but Scott Drew is remaining in Waco.
By the way, real quick on this, Mark Zinno did reply back and says, did at Ben Scott Stevens see this, or did he take his nap? So we're having some fun already between brethren here at the SportsGrid Network.
That nap is going to happen because the Masters is now underway at Augusta National Golf Club. That's my only focus. Anyway, so before we say farewell and before we say goodbye, it is time for a best bet on this Thursday. It's time for Bye, Bye, Bye. Donnie Rightside, what gets your attention on this Thursday?
Let's go to Major League Baseball. Now, this game might actually not play today. I hope it does. It's an afternoon game. It's Milwaukee and it's Cincinnati. I already told you. You take a look at Martinez on the mound, struggling against lefties here. Christian Yelich should be able to rake again today. I'll take a plus 150 price on an RBI today for Christian Yelich. Let's hope that game plays and we get an RBI and catch that ticket and relax and watch the Masters.
Listen, Christian Yelich has been great this year. Brew Crew over in 7 of 11. Reds over in 9 of 12. That total today in a great American ballpark. DRS, I'm looking at Augusta. Now, Tiger Woods might not complete his opening round by the time he tees off near 4 p.m. Eastern time, but I'm using the lovely FanDuel Sportsbook 25% profit boost for this opening round on Tiger to record 4 or more made birdies in his first 18 holes, plus 120 with the profit boost, plus 150. Eldrick, the big cat, stuck in Augusta once again. Oh, and Tate, Dante DiVincenzo over 17.5. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time, live right here on the grid.